My wife's family staged a roast for my retirement party, but it was just 45 minutes of them mocking my life, calling me a parasite. My grandson cried. I smiled, raised my glass, and left without a word. That was 6 months ago. Today, they found my will and not one of them is in it. Now my inbox is flooded with please talk to US messages. My grandson was crying while they laughed at me. Not just giggling. Laughing. Openly. Loudly. Like the joke was so perfect it couldn't wait another second. That joke, of course, was me. It was supposed to be my retirement party. 43 years at the same steel fabrication plant. Not glamorous, but honest work. I showed up every day, never late, never drunk, never hurt anyone. Never gave less than what I had. I was the guy who'd bring his lunch in a battered thermos and eat in the break room alone while younger guys texted and vaped on the loading dock. I didn't expect fireworks. Or speeches. Or a cake. But my wife said her family wanted to do something nice. So I smiled. Nodded. Let them plan. What they planned was a roast. A funny tribute. 45 minutes of being called a freeloader. A parasite. A bitter little man with no real legacy. One by one, my brother-in-law, my wife's nieces and nephews, even my own son, stood at the mic to mock my life. It wasn't even clever. Just cruel. You spend your whole life with a blowtorch and a time card, and now what? A pension and a busted joint, said my wife's youngest cousin, getting the biggest laugh of the night. I caught my grandson, Ryan, trying to cover his ears. He's only 9. He started crying when his dad, my son, said I was not someone to look up to. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I smiled. Raised my glass. Drank my beer. And then I stood up. Walked out the front door. Didn't say a word. That was 6 months ago. Not one of them has seen me since. Today, they found my will. And not one of them is in it. What they don't know, what none of them ever cared to learn, is that I was never broke. I lived cheap. Sure. Wore the same jeans until they frayed. Drove a '98 Ford until the wheels rusted off. But I also invested every spare dime. Worked nights fixing appliances for cash. Bought into index funds before people knew what they were. Never bragged. Never showed off. The house is paid off. There's $500,000 in my IRA. 2 rental properties. A classic car restored in secret over 10 years. Gold bars in a safety deposit box. Literally. And a new will filed quietly through an attorney they've never met. It all goes to Ryan. Every penny. But with one condition. He doesn't receive a cent until he turns 30, and only if he never contacts any of them again. My phone has been blowing up for hours. Please talk to us. It was just a joke. You're overreacting. My wife's voicemail, we didn't know it hurt you. She knew. She sat there. Laughing. Watching me get carved up like a roast pig at my own wake. I'd never hit her. Never yelled. Never cheated. Never even looked at another woman. I took care of her parents while their health declined. Changed her mother's diapers. Cleaned her father's bed sores. I buried them. Paid for the funerals. And she laughed. She planned it. I know this because I found her emails. The ones she forgot to delete. Subject line, roast ideas for Frank. She suggested the parasite line. She suggested all of it. There's a folder in my desk labeled for Ryan. Inside is a letter and a thumb drive. On the drive is a copy of every message, every joke, every video they took that night. All time-stamped. All documented. He'll get it on his 18th birthday. He'll see what they are. He'll see why I vanished. Because I have vanished. I sold the house. Liquidated the rentals. Bought a plot of land in the mountains under a trust. I'm building a cabin with my hands, slow and quiet. No Wi-Fi. No mail. Just the sound of snow and pine needles and the fire crackling in the stove. They'll never find me. And when they talk about me, they'll have to admit what they did. Because it's not about revenge. It's about record-keeping. My name won't be remembered with honor. But theirs? Will be remembered only in context to what they did. That's the gift I gave them. Not punishment. History. Edit. No, I don't feel guilty. Not when Ryan's tears were real and their laughs were louder. Update 1. The silence is worse than screaming. They stopped laughing. That's what hit first. The absolute dead silence. After my lawyer hand-delivered the will to my wife, sorry, ex-wife now, every social channel, group chat, and family thread they'd used to share roast clips and clever captions went dark. Deleted. Wiped clean like none of it ever happened. But I still had the videos. And so does Ryan. I mailed him a plain brown envelope 3 days after the will was delivered. No return address. Just a typed label. For Ryan. Open alone. Inside, a USB drive, a printed letter, and a post-it note that said, I love you more than they ever loved me. I knew he'd read it. Because 2 hours later, my phone lit up with a single text from an unknown number. Is this really you? I didn't respond. He needed space to absorb it all. The videos. The transcripts. The photo of him, red-faced and crying, while his own father smirked behind him, raising a glass to a joke about what happens when you marry down. My son. That boy used to sit on my lap and ask if I'd always be around. I told him yes. I told him I'd protect him from anything. But I couldn't protect him from himself. Because he became one of them. A few days after Ryan got the package, the family group chats exploded again, but this time with panic. Apparently, Ryan showed the videos to his therapist. The therapist called child services. They didn't find abuse, but they did flag the household for emotional neglect. A case file was opened. And my son? He's furious. Not at me. At them. He's been emailing me every day since. I haven't answered most of them. Just enough to let him know I'm here. That I see him. He told me he doesn't talk to his parents anymore. That they tried to ground him, take his phone, say I was manipulating him. He laughed in their faces. Told them he hoped they liked group dinners without him. Said he was counting the days until he turned 18. My ex-wife, meanwhile, left me 12 voicemails in one night. The last one broke something in her voice. You're poisoning him, she said. You're turning him against us. He doesn't understand it was a joke. We didn't mean it. That's the thing, isn't it? They did mean it. Every word. Every laugh. Every smirk into a wine glass while my grandson sobbed 3 feet away. You don't write roast jokes in a Google Doc and workshop them for tone if you don't mean them. You don't assign who says what. You don't test punchlines on Facebook friends. You don't print t-shirts. Yeah, they printed t-shirts. One of them said, Team Burnout. They wore them after I left. Took group photos. I found those too. Saved every one. I sent Ryan a copy of that album. He hasn't responded in 2 days. I know what silence like that means. It's not distance. It's strategy. He's deciding what kind of person he wants to be. Good. I hope he takes his time. In the meantime, the calls keep coming. From cousins I haven't spoken to in 10 years. From my brother-in-law, who once called me a glorified welder with delusions of adequacy. From my own sister, who spent most of her life pretending I didn't exist. They all want to have a conversation. They all regret the way things unfolded. Not the thing itself. Just the optics. The fallout. The fact that the man they ridiculed at his own retirement party turned out to be the only one in the room who understood long-term planning. They want forgiveness. They want to smooth it over. They want to be seen trying. I don't answer. Instead, I keep building. The cabin's almost done. Ryan's name is on the deed of the land it's on. He doesn't know that yet. He just thinks it's part of the inheritance. But one day, it'll be his place. His silence. His view. His sanctuary. When he's old enough to understand the real price of family, he'll have a place to go where no one laughs at his pain. They'll keep trying. I know that. There's too much money on the line. They've even started spreading stories saying I'm senile, unstable, manipulated by grief or mental decline. They say Ryan's too young to know what's best for him. They say I'm cruel. But they don't say the one thing that might have changed everything. We're sorry. Because they're not. And that's the difference between pain and guilt. Pain passes. Guilt roots itself deep. Let them rot with it. Update 2. Ryan spoke. And the whole house tipped over. He waited exactly 1 week. Then, in the middle of a Thursday morning, while most of them were at brunch or on Zoom calls or doing whatever it is that emotionally bankrupt people do when money's tight and legacies slipping, Ryan posted the videos. All of them. To YouTube. To TikTok. To Reddit. He blurred his own face but left everyone else's untouched. My son, his father, makes eye contact with the camera at one point, toasting to a joke about Dad's biggest retirement gift being finally out of our way. It got 800,000 views in 3 hours. By morning, Ryan's face was on the homepage of a subreddit called r/estranged parents. Someone found my wife's Instagram. The roast shirt photos. The group shot with the Team Burnout banner in the background. They screenshotted everything before she could delete it. She tried to do damage control. Posted a photo of her and Ryan from 2 years ago. Captioned it. No one's perfect. Parenting is a journey. The comments weren't kind. Neither were the emails. Apparently, Ryan included a second video. A reading of the letter I sent him. My voice. Quiet. Steady. One take. He edited it so it plays over footage of him as a kid, running through sprinklers, blowing out birthday candles, falling asleep on my chest in an old recliner. You can see his father in the background of one clip, scrolling on his phone. You can see my wife yelling in another. Her mouth blurred, but the tone's unmistakable. The caption? He was the only one who saw me cry. I didn't ask him to post it. I would have told him not to. But now? Now I see why he did. The views tripled overnight. My wife lost 2 freelance clients. My son's church asked him to step back from community service leadership. My niece, who laughed loudest that night, is now suspended from her marketing job after someone emailed the video to her boss. I didn't lift a finger. Ryan did. He told the truth and let the world decide. And now? They're turning on him. The family. The ones who said he was just a kid who cried when he screamed in the car the night of the roast. They're calling him a liar. Saying he's manipulated by a bitter old man. They're posting their own videos now. My brother-in-law filmed one in his garage, holding a beer, looking directly into the camera. This is what happens when old men go crazy and drag kids into their paranoia. We were just having fun. He knew it was a joke. I guess Ryan didn't think it was funny. Because yesterday he filed for emancipation. He's 15. 15. He did it through a legal aid program his therapist helped him find. His school counselor co-signed a letter of support. His grades are good. His record is clean. And his petition? Included copies of every video, every voicemail, every post. It also included something I didn't expect. A second letter. Not from me. From the neighbor. The one who watched Ryan knock on her door, shaking and sobbing, the night of the roast. She let him sit on her porch until he stopped crying. Brought him hot chocolate. Texted me from a burner account she found in his notebook. She never told his parents. Now she's in the filing too. Said she saw how they treated him. Said she wished someone had believed her about her own father back in '78. Said she wouldn't let another child fall through the cracks of polite cruelty. My wife has hired a lawyer. So has my son. They're fighting it. But they're not fighting him. Not really. They're fighting the story. The narrative. They're terrified of the image they see in that video of a sobbing child, a quiet old man, and a room full of well-dressed hyenas. I know the look on their faces. It's not guilt. It's panic. They're losing control. And for people like them, control is oxygen. Ryan called me today. Not texted. Called. He asked if I would testify on his behalf if the court required it. I said yes before he finished the sentence. He asked if he could stay with me if the emancipation went through. I told him he already had a room. He asked what it looked like. I told him it had no locks. Just a door that closes soft, a window that looks out over trees, and a bed that never laughs when you cry. He didn't speak for a minute. Then he said, "I think I'd like that." Then the line went dead. Not cut. Just complete. My wife called 20 minutes later. Screaming. Accusing me of brainwashing her grandson. Her grandson. As if the boy she raised that night, the one she stood over while others mocked his tears, was some different creature than the child I raised when no one else noticed him. She threatened legal action. Said she'd drag me to hell and back. I told her she's already halfway there. And she hung up. There are 3 more hearings this month. I'll be attending the second one. Quietly. In the back. Just a warm body who remembers things the world would rather forget. Ryan's not alone anymore. That's all that matters. Let them claw and scream and lie. Let them fester in the digital remnants of their legacy. I'm not worried. Because Ryan's not just building a case. He's building a record. And one day, he'll do what I did. He'll raise a glass. He'll smile. And he'll walk away. Update 3. The fire didn't start with me, but I let it burn. It's done. The court approved it. Ryan is emancipated. 15 years old, and the state officially recognizes he is safer without them. Safer with me. That sentence shouldn't exist. But it does. It's real. It's law now. My ex-wife tried to smile in court like she was graciously releasing him. She wore all black like she was at a funeral. Maybe she was. Her own. My son didn't even show. His attorney said he was too emotionally compromised. Which is legal speak for he couldn't stand to look at the boy who finally stopped asking for his love. Ryan didn't cry. He didn't shake. He read a statement. 2 pages. Typed. Double-spaced. He said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them." The first time. I believed my family when they laughed. I believed them when they watched me cry and didn't stop. And I believe them now when they say they're sorry only because of what they lost, not what they did. Silence. Then the judge nodded. Stamped the order. And just like that, the bloodline cracked. He walked out with me. No bags. No dramatics. Just a USB drive in his pocket and a hand gripping mine tighter than he ever did when he was 6. We drove in silence for an hour. Then he asked if the cabin had heat. I told him we have firewood for days and a generator backup. He smiled. It was small. Tight. Like his face had forgotten how. But it was real. I should have felt triumphant. Righteous. I didn't. I felt hollow. Not because we lost. Because we won. And it shouldn't have taken all of this to get there. But the fallout wasn't over. The videos kept spreading. A documentary YouTube channel picked it up. They called it The Roast That Ruined a Family. For million views and counting. My wife's mom blog lost every sponsor. Her Amazon affiliate account was closed. Apparently, someone sent the video to her biggest brand partner with timestamps and commentary. She posted a statement blaming false narratives and deepfakes. Deepfakes. As if you can fake that kind of venom. That kind of voice. That kind of hunger to humiliate. My son? He's under investigation at work. Not because of the roast, because someone leaked internal texts showing he used a company retreat to write some of his jokes. Time theft. Ethics violation. He's been put on leave. I didn't send those texts. Ryan didn't either. Someone else did. The same person who's been emailing me anonymously for weeks. Sharing screenshots. Forwarding threads. They call themselves the archivist. I don't know who they are. But I know this. They were there that night. Their name was on one of the t-shirt orders. They said I didn't laugh. I froze. I've been trying to make up for it ever since. Redemption's a slippery thing. I don't trust it. But I read everything they send. Because Ryan deserves to know how deep the rock goes. Speaking of Ryan new. He's not the same boy. He still laughs. Sometimes. But it's different now. He asks about investing. About compound interest. He's been watching videos on how to build shelves. He helped me chop wood yesterday. His hands blistered. He didn't complain. He just said, feels good to do something real. He sleeps through the night again. That didn't happen before. He used to wake up screaming. One night, he walked out to the living room, stood in front of the fireplace, and asked me was I ever really wanted? I didn't lie. I said, buy them? I don't know. Buy me? Since the second you cried at that roast? He didn't respond. But he sat beside me until the fire went out. We have a new rule now. No clocks. No calendars. Just light and sleep and hunger. And every Sunday we write letters. Not to anyone. Just letters. He's written 5 already. Never shows me. Folds them, seals them, puts them in a tin under the floorboard. I told him that's a good place for grief. Somewhere safe. Somewhere solid. But not forever. One day we'll burn them. Together. As for the family? They're still circling. Not calling anymore. Posting. Hinting. Dropping breadcrumbs in the form of nostalgic Facebook posts and baby photos and what could have been messages. Yesterday, my niece tagged Ryan in an Instagram story with the caption, "Miss my little cousin so much it hurts." She didn't mention the video where she said, "You'll end up just like him, old, alone, and bitter." Ryan screenshot it, printed it out, nailed it to a tree behind the cabin. Didn't say a word. Just drove the nail in with 3 solid hits. I asked what he was doing. He said, "Building a graveyard." I didn't ask for who. We both know. I don't know how this ends. I don't know what peace looks like for a boy with that much ash in his mouth. But I know this. He'll never be their punchline again. And I'll never smile through blood again. Let them rot. Let the world judge. Let the fire burn until all that's left is one boy, one man, and a forest that doesn't ask questions. Because sometimes you don't bury the past. You leave it above ground. So it rots where everyone can see. Final update, the house still stands. But no one lives there anymore. Ryan turned 18 this morning. He didn't want a cake. Didn't want gifts. Didn't even want breakfast. He just walked out to the porch at sunrise, sat down in the old rocking chair I refinished last fall, and said, "Is it time?" I handed him the key. Not dramatic. Just a small brass thing on a string around my neck. He slid it into the lockbox we buried together 2 years ago. Dug it up with his bare hands. Brushed off the frost. Pulled out the envelope marked. To Ryan, age 18. Final version. Inside, a check. A new deed. A copy of my will. The title to the cabin. Account numbers. Passwords. Coordinates. And one last letter. He read it in silence. Took him 20 minutes. Then he stood, walked out into the woods, and screamed. Not words. Just a long, ragged sound from the deepest pit of him. I didn't follow. He came back an hour later. Eyes red. Voice steady. He said, "Thank you." I said, "You earned it." Then we burned the letters. The ones under the floorboard. All of them. Piled into a steel bucket one by one. No tears. Just flames. And once they were ash, he did something I didn't expect. He took the final t-shirt, the last one he kept from that night, crumpled at the bottom of a locked drawer, and added it to the fire. It hissed like it was alive. We watched it melt into slag. The rest of the day passed like any other. But we both knew the old story was over. And the new one was beginning. Now here's what you came for. The will went into effect today. Fully. Legally. Ryan is now the sole beneficiary of everything I own. The accounts, the land, the backup trust, the gold. And with that authority, he sent letters of his own. Certified. Notarized. To every person who spoke at the roast. Each envelope contained a photo from that night printed in matte. A single sentence, "This is the moment you lost access to my life." A blank check, voided and torn. A scanned copy of the inheritance clause, the one that says any attempt to contact Ryan after the age of 18 will trigger an automatic, irrevocable charitable donation in the full amount of his trust fund to a rotating roster of abuse survivor foundations. They have no path back in. Not even in death. If they write him, they pay. If they call, they pay. If they mention his name in a legal filing, they pay. He called it his firewall. And they got the message. By noon, the first post went up my ex-wife's Facebook. It said, "Sometimes motherhood means letting go of the child you raised and accepting the man who no longer wants you in his life. We all fail. Some of us are just unlucky enough to do it in public." She disabled comments. My son followed a few hours later. A tweet. Nothing more. I have no father. My son has no grandfather. That's the legacy I carry. People started asking questions. Digging. The videos resurfaced. So did the old emails. And then the letters started coming in. Not from the family. From strangers. From men who saw their fathers in me. From women who saw their mothers in my ex. From kids who cried watching Ryan cry. From therapists. Social workers. Foster parents. All saying the same thing. I thought I was the only one. We answered some. Not all. One in particular stuck out. From a girl in Oregon. Age 14. Emancipated. Found us through the story. Said she showed the roast video to her caseworker and now lives with a family who doesn't flinch when I speak. Ryan wrote her back. Said, "Let them remember you in silence. You owe them nothing louder than your absence." She replied, that made me stop cutting. We framed that one. It hangs by the door. A reminder that stories, when told right, become weapons. And sometimes shields. But this is the last story I'm telling. Because it's not mine anymore. Ryan owns it. Today, he told me he's going away for a while. Not to escape. To live. Wants to hike through the North Cascades. See Alaska. Maybe learn welding just for the poetry. He packed light. Took a journal, a pocket knife, the checkbook, and a copy of the will. Left his phone on the table. Said, I'll call when it matters. Then he was gone. Just like I was. Only this time, no one's going to mock the silence. Because the difference between me and them? I left a map. I left him tools. I left him with truth. And they left him with wounds he turned into armor. The cabin is quiet now. Sometimes I sit on the porch and reread the first letter I ever wrote him. The one where I said, you cried because no one else would. That's how I knew you'd survive. And he did. Not just survive, but outlast. I don't know what comes next. But I know it doesn't. Laughter at someone else's expense. A child begging for acknowledgement. An old man sitting in a room full of smiles with no love. Let this be the end then. Not a moral. Not a warning. Just a record. Of what happens when a boy breaks free from the bloodline that failed him. Of what happens when silence is the only inheritance worth passing down. Of what happens when the parasite is the last one standing. And everyone else learns. You don't get to bury your cruelty. You get to live in it.